Hey guys, it's Cece from Cece ReStyled, and I am a brand ambassador for Redesign with Prima, and I'm going live in the page today to show you how to make some moldings with hot glue. So I'm going to be using a few different molds from Redesign with Prima. So as you can see, I've started on this piece behind me, and I'm basically I'm creating the molds with hot glue, and I'm applying them with hot glue. So I've painted my piece, and then the white drawers, the white that you see is primer. This piece was made, it was like a press board or MDF type material. So the paint wasn't going to really stick very well, so I had to prime it with 2 coats of Slick Stick, which is an adhesion primer. So I did that, and then now I'm adding my molds. You can add your molds before or after the primer. I chose to do it after in this particular case, and I've got some keyhole molds on here, and then I'm coming through and making kind of like a shape that comes up here, and then I'm going to mimic that shape up here. I'm going to flip it and mimic it up here so it comes down like that. And I'm making them and applying them all with hot glue. I'm using some molds from Redesign with Prima, a few different ones. So I'm going to go ahead and start with applying this one. So see how you can still get some pretty good detail from the hot glue. I usually like to use the quick setting resin because I like the detail that it provides, and it sets up pretty quick. I do also like hot glue when I'm out of the quick set resin, or you know, in different circumstances I like to use the hot glue. As you can see, it's bendable, so on the front of a curvy chest like this it makes a lot of sense because it'll conform to the surface and those curves and everything like that. So it works perfectly, and the detail is pretty good, as you can see. So and this is one of the more intricate molds as far as it gets very thin in certain places. And this is one of the harder molds that I've come across to create because it's got so many kind of almost lacy details, and it works well with the hot glue. So this mold is a true test of the material that you're using, if it's going to work or not, in my experience. So we're going to go ahead and see, I've got that one, the same molding right here, flipped this way. So I'm going to apply it to the bottom drawer flipped the other way, because I'm going to be mirroring the top and the bottom drawers. So I'm just going to put the hot glue on the back of my molding, and you have to be really carefully. I like to do half of the molding when it's bigger ones like this because the hot glue sets up pretty quickly, and so you want it to stick. So I do half of it and I stick it, and then I apply the hot glue and I do the other half. So I'm just centering it right there, making sure it's all pressed on. And I've been working with hot glue molds for a while now, so it's taken a while to kind of get the process to where I can apply the hot glue to the back and get it to stick fast enough. So that's why I only do half of it at a time, because if I do the whole thing, I'm going to have to end up, you know, going back and reapplying the glue anyway. So I'm just going to peel up half the mold. I'm going to put my hot glue on the other half. Now, there's a lot of different materials that you can make your molds out of. Like I said, I like to use quick setting resin a lot. I use hot glue. You can use regular resin. It just takes a really long time to set up, like overnight. And I'm not that patient, so I don't have overnight. Modeling material from Redesign with Prima is another good one. It does shrink and crack just a little bit, and a lot of people don't like that. So I don't use that modeling material when I'm making trims or anything that will really, that it will affect by the shrinking. Like flowers and butterflies and little random kind of things that set by themselves. I'm fine with using the modeling material, because if it shrinks or cracks just a little, it's fine and no other parts are affected. Alright, I'm going to get the bottom of this here mold real quick. And then it should be all nice and set up on there. One problem with working with the hot glue is the strings. you'll be kind of picking strings out of your work every once in a while, and that's okay, just as long as you get them, because the strings in your paint job don't look really that great. One thing I want to mention about using the hot glue to make molds is, as you can see, I use one of the large, the guns that hold the large sticks. That helps a lot because you're constantly squeezing the glue through, so you go through a lot of it, and then you have to replace the sticks. So I like to use the bigger sticks, and then I buy them in the longer sizes too, so that I'm not replacing them as quickly. And also make sure you're using a high temp glue gun. I got a construction grade glue gun, and it seems to work the best out of all the glue guns that I've worked. Just craft glue guns can be a little bit challenging. I think I paid $12 for this, and it's worth every penny. I would buy 5 of them. It gets really hot because it's a high temp glue gun. It holds the large sticks, and it heats up really, really fast, almost as soon as I plug it in. So we're going to make some of the hot glue molds here in just a second. I just want to get my, I got my centerpiece glued on. I have the rest of the pieces for this side already squeezed and set up. So we're going to go ahead and start working on the pieces for the top. So my next pieces that I need to make are these little swirly guys here. Wait, which way does that go? Wrong one, this one. These little swirly guys here, and let's see, that is going to be from the, let's see, the Thornton Medallion mold. So that's this one, Thornton Medallion. And I am out of this mold. I'm not using the big piece. I'm just using these 2 little swirlies here. So I'm going to go ahead and squeeze those out, and they can start to set up while I attach the other ones. So when I am squeezing the hot glue into my mold, I like to make sure that I get the nozzle of my glue gun deep down in there. I like to get it almost touching the bottom of the mold, and then I squeeze and let it kind of fill itself up, and that helps avoid or minimize bubbles. One of the problems with the hot glue is that you can get bubbles in your work, and a lot of people don't like that, but I find that if you press your nozzle down into the mold, to where it's touching the bottom, and just squeeze and let it fill itself up, I really can avoid a lot of those bubbles, whereas if I was just kind of holding the glue and letting the glue gun and letting the glue kind of fall into the mold, that's where you get the bubbles. And some of these molds fill up a little bit quicker than others. This one is not so bad. This is one of my favorite molds there is. I love it. I've used it so many times. So I just want to fill up my mold. Okay, and be careful. You want to try not to overfill it. Sometimes it's kind of hard. I like to get a little smack like that to kind of get any bubbles to try to surface. And then I got to get my other little swirly guy from the other side here. If you have $12 to spend, you guys, and you're going to be making any sort of heat or hot glue molds, I highly suggest getting this DeWalt heat gun. I've used it at my shop. In my art studio, we have all different kinds of glue guns that I bought for the workshops that I hold, and I've been in a pinch and tried to use all of those, and they're all manageable, but none of them, I'm spoiled with this glue gun, you guys. None of them work as well as this construction grade one. So give it a little smack, try to get my bubbles out from the bottom, and I'm just going to let that set up. I throw a fan on it because I'm super duper impatient, but you don't have to do that. Our next molding is going to be, well, I'll show you the ones I already put on there. So I've already got keyholes on there from Grandeur Keyholes. This is one of my favorite molds as well. I use these little horizontal ones, but you can use any ones, obviously that you wish. One of these days I'm going to do a piece with keyholes, just keyholes all over it, just keyholes. The one I showed you that we applied a moment ago is from Hollybrook Ironwork, and that's this little guy. And we're gonna use this one again because I want to make these little curly cues. That's our next piece that is gonna go in our pattern, is these little curly cues. Hi everybody, thanks for tuning in. I'm sorry, I'm kind of starting to lose my voice a little bit. I'm not really sure what the deal with that is, but I'm gonna grab a water. Starting to lose my voice just a little. Let's see. There, now you can see better. So we've already got our the medallion part, so now we're just gonna do our little curly cues. See how like intricate this mold is? It's almost like lace. So it's definitely one of the harder molds to pour or squeeze. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and press my nozzle down into my mold. I'm going to refill my gun here. And I bought a big box of hot glue from Amazon. I think it was a 5-pound box. I can't remember if it was 5 or 15. I can't remember. But a big box of hot glue that has lasted me about 2 months so far, and I still probably have another 2 months worth out of it. I'm guessing. And I bought that for I think $16. Now I like to use the economy hot glue from Amazon when I'm making tons and tons of molds. I prefer to use the Gorilla hot glue for attaching, which comes in these little bags, but it gets a little costly. So when you're making as many molds as I have been making, you kind of got to go with the economy version. But so far they've held up. I have not noticed any difference in the molds I'm making between the expensive hot glue and the economy hot glue. Just you want to make sure you're using a high temp gun. I prefer the large size sticks because, like I said, you could be replacing your stick every couple of seconds if you're going through it really quick. All right, so see how I fill it up I try to get it as flush as I can with the top. And if you overflow it a little bit, it's okay. Don't worry about that because we'll go through and we'll trim off the edges that may have overflown. We can trim those off later. So I'm going to stick that in front of my fan. Another mold that I've already used on this piece was Regal Filaments. I did these guys right here on the see right here on the little pillars of my piece. I did Regal Filaments. I use that one a lot on the corners of my piece. And then next we're going to do, let's see, our next piece will be, we're going to need another round of these swirls from Thornton Medallion. So I'm going to go ahead and let those set up for just a couple more minutes, and we'll go ahead and apply the rest of our moldings to here. So I'm trimming these as I go. So our next piece is another little swirly, one of these guys, and it's pretty decent. I've just got a few little extra kind of hairs and things that I need to pick off the edge. So this one comes out pretty clean. Some of them it's really hard to get clean and you need to use a sharp knife to go around the edges and clean them up. But this one comes out pretty clean. See that? Couple little bubbles, but once I paint them and I put my gilding wax on them, they'll barely even be noticeable. So not super concerned about that. Okay, so, oops, I had the wrong one again. Right, so I'm going to hold my molding up, make sure I have it in place, in the right place and where I want it, which is mirroring this side. So I'm mirroring this side to this side. So he's going to go right there. And this mold is small enough that I'm just going to put my hot glue all over the back and press it on. I don't need to do this. I don't need to do this starting with just doing half of it. So Just covering my back with glue. You don't want to put too much because then it squeezes out the sides and it shows in your design. And that's no bueno. Alright, so I'm going to get it on there. Oops, a little crooked. Whoops. Alright, I got to pull that one off. That one was a little crooked. Let's try that again, shall we? And not crooked. If you get it crooked, just rip it off. Try again. When I use the Gorilla Hot Glue to adhere them, they're really hard to get off. I need to get another one of these glue guns just for the Gorilla Glue to attach, and then I can use the other one for the cheaper glue to make the molds. Remind me I gotta buy another heat gun. Is that straight? Yeah, that's pretty symmetrical, right? Make sure none of my ends are coming up, and I got this end needs a little bit more glue. Okay, so once that's down, all the ends are secure, all the edges, everything's secure. And that's what I really want. It's really important, no matter what you make your molds of, that you get them secure on the piece. If you really want to, and you're not confident that your glue is going to stick and adhere your molding to your piece, you can, it's soft enough that you can shoot a couple little screws through it. And since it's made of the hot glue, when you shoot a couple screws through it, I found that the hot glue kind of just envelops over the screw head so you don't see it. It's pretty cool. But I'm not going to screw these in. I think they're sticking pretty good. Okay, so our next molding we're going to apply is the little curly Q from Hollybrook Ironwork. I'm going to get my really sharp knife and I'm just going to clean up the edges of that a little bit. You want to make sure you're using a super sharp knife because if you're not, as you could probably guess, it doesn't work very well. And you might cut yourself, and you don't want to cut yourself. That's boo. Boo. Okay, so we're just kind of razoring off the edges that were a little overfilled or little hairs that are kind of hanging off. You can kind of pull those off with your fingernail. But just cleaning up the edges a little bit. So I think we're good. Little curly Q guy. So this one's gonna go right here. So I'm just going to put my hot glue all over the back. And get it on there just right. They look pretty symmetrical. Pretty symmetrical? Yeah. Okay, so make sure none of my edges are coming up and all my edges are secure on there. So our next piece is this little guy. And I think I got it going this way on the other side. And this one is called Italian Villa Scrolls. This is my first mold that I ever got, you guys, Italian Villa Scrolls. And I got to clean up the edges. See how there's like little overflow spots here? I'm just going to clean those up with my sharp knife. But this is my first mold that I ever got. And so I really like it. It has a special place in my heart. It's the one that turned me. So I'm just going to clean up the edges. And I think that's pretty good. But you can see the detail. Pretty good detail, right? For hot glue, like, I'm not mad about it. Yeah, I'm making these molds out of hot glue and I'm attaching them with hot glue. So we just filled, if you're just hopping on, we just filled up our molds with the hot glue and we're letting them set, and I'll show you those in a second, and then we can fill up some more because I have to make 2 more of these for the top. We're going to mirror the top and the bottom here. Okay, so I'm going to hold that up, make sure that I got it going the right direction, And then this one is large enough. I'm just going to put hot glue on the first half, and then I will stick it and then get hot glue on the second half. Because otherwise it just hardens up on you and it doesn't stick. So, let's see, get this on there. Alright, so there's my Italian Villa scrolls. Now I gotta get the other side to stick. Okay, so I'm just gonna lift that up and put some glue under it. All right. Okay, so now I just want to make sure that none of my edges or my little ends are coming up here. And if they are, I'm just going to squeeze a little bit of hot glue behind it and press it back on. I think that one's on pretty good. And pretty symmetrical. I think I had this one a little bit too close to that side, but that's okay. It's pretty symmetrical, right? Can you see? And now we got one more mold for the bottom, and then we'll switch on over to the top. So our last one to mirror the bottom is this guy, and I've already got him all cleaned up around the edges. So the great thing about the hot glue, if you're just hopping on, the great thing about hot glue molds is not only are they super durable, but they're, you know, you can conform them to curved surfaces. So you can go around a pot or a planter, you can go over a Bombay chest or a curved drawer, anything like that. And you can cut them. I've had to cut them. So say I only want to use this much of the molding, I can cut that off, or I can cut, you know, this part off and just use that to make them all, you know, custom to my piece. These are redesigned with Prima molds, all of them. So let's see if I see any other questions before. Okay. Now I use hot glue molds about 50% of the time. The other 50% of the time I use resin. And then a very small percentage of the time I use modeling material. But I'm just too impatient for modeling material. It takes overnight. There's nothing wrong with it. It just takes overnight, and I'm a little too impatient for that. Most of the time I'm in a hurry trying to get something done. So rarely do I use the modeling material, but I do like it. I'm just impatient. Okay. All right, so we got to put on our last piece on the bottom draw, and he's going to go kind of right like there. Actually, that might be a little too high. He's going to go just like that. Okay, so this piece I'm just going to put my hot glue all over the back. If you're concerned with it sticking, just shoot a couple screws through it. It'll be fine. And put it right there, right there. Okay, so I've got my hot glue mold on. Make sure that none of my edges are coming up, and that one went on really well. So there we go. So there's our bottom drawer. Now I need to, now I'm ready for paint and whatever other finishes I want to put on. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the other two molds that remember we squeezed those out just a minute ago? And you don't need any sort of releasing agent or cornstarch or baking powder or whatever people put in molds. You don't need any of that. With the silicone mold, it just pops right out. See, it just peels right out. Super easy like that. And then, of course, I'll just clean up the edges with a razor or X-Acto knife. Clean up those edges. And there's this one. So I'll just cut off those little scraggly parts like that, and they're bendy. So I'm going to go ahead and get my knife, And I'm going to clean up the edges of those. And then we'll apply these to the top drawer and mirror the bottom drawer. So while I'm cleaning up the edges of these with my knife, just let me know if you have any questions that I will try to answer for you. So regardless of whether you're using resin or modeling material or hot glue, if you get the edges kind of overflowed a little bit, you'll need to clean them up with a razor blade, a sharp razor blade or X-Acto knife just like this. Okay, so we've almost got this one. Okay, so there's one, all cleaned up. Let's see, yes, paint absolutely sticks to hot glue, or at least I use Dixie Belle chalk mineral paint, so any kind of chalk style paint sticks to the hot glue very well. I like to use Gorilla Glue sticks, high temperature, the large ones, but they can get a little costly. I think this bag is about $9. I also bought this, I can't remember if it was 5 pound or 15 pound. I'm not very good with weights and things like that. But it was full of hot glue sticks for $17 from Amazon. Or 16 and some change. Something like that. But whatever it was a lot cheaper than the Gorilla Glue sticks. And I haven't found much of a difference in the molds they create, but I have found that the Gorilla Glue adheres the molds a lot better, much better. I had to remove one and it was pretty tough to get off, so the Gorilla Glue sticks work great for adhering, and the cheap glue works great for creating the molds. So I'm going to order me another high temp glue gun and have one for the Gorilla Glue and one for the economy glue. So I have 2 separate glue guns, but anyways, that's besides the point. So there's my second one. Okay, so now I'm going to apply this and its mate to the other side, or to the top, I'm sorry. So on the bottom piece, they are going this direction. So basically on the top, that's going to be flipped like this. So it's going to be mirrored, and they're going to be like this. There we go. Sorry, I had that wrong. Wait, no? Did I have it right? Maybe I should take the drawer out and flip it upside down and try to match it. This is going to be tougher than I thought to. Okay, so on here they're like this. And then on the top they would be the other. Oh, on the top they'd be up here. Okay. That took me a minute to figure out. Oh my gosh. Okay, so they're going up here. Woo! Okay then. I haven't had coffee in almost a week. Since Starbucks has been closed, I haven't had any coffee. So it's been rough, y'all. The last week and a half without coffee has been rough. But they're going up there so that we can mirror the bottom. As best we can, okay? We're going to mirror it as best we can. It doesn't have to be perfect, but pretty good. Okay, so that is going right just like that. Boom. And it's attached. And I've got a little loose end right here. I'm just going to squeeze some glue in there and get that little guy stuck down best I can. And now we're going to attach its partner over here. just like that. All right, and our next pieces are little curlicues. Remember we made the Remember we squeezed out those curlicues also. Gina, I do like to use the Gorilla Glue to adhere best, but I haven't got that second glue gun I'm talking about getting yet. So right now I'm just using the cheapy glue to attach them also, but it seems to be going pretty well. So Hollybrook Ironwork, and we're just using a little why can't I say curlicue? Curlicue! We're just grabbing the curlicues out and clean those up a little bit with our sharp knife. No big deal. Some of the little finer little scragglers you can just pull off with your fingernail. Pretty easy. Sometimes this part, the part of the process, like the cleaning up of the pieces, is kind of soothing almost. Very therapeutic, just cutting off all these little scragglers here. Okay, so that one's good. We're a little curlicue. And then our other little curlicue here. Clean her up a bit. She's just got some little hairs. Pick off your hairs. All right. And that's pretty good. Right there. Little curlicue. So we're going to mirror our bottom. And so, let's see. So that means they're going to go like this. Just like that. If we're mirroring the bottom, the little teardrop side goes in, points in, and if it were C, the opening of the C would be facing towards the middle, so that's right. So I'm just going to shoot the back with some glue without burning myself, hopefully. I do burn myself sometimes with the hot glue. You got to be careful about that. Or you can just not be clumsy. That's probably the better solution. All right, so we're gonna put them right up in there, just like that. Press it on there. Okay, see if I have any loose edges or coming up, and I don't seem to. So we can move on to this guy right there. Cool. And then get rid of my little hairs that come with the process of glue gunning anything. Make sure I don't have any edges loose. I think I'm good. That one's good. Okay, so next we're ready for our, let's see. We gotta shoot some more of the Italian Villa Scrolls. And in case you missed it earlier, I'll go ahead and show you how to do that, and then we'll hop off. So I've got my high temp glue gun with the large sticks. I've got a couple extra sticks ready, handy. And then, let's see. We're gonna go ahead and I like to press the nose of the glue gun down into the well of the mold. Okay, so in order to decrease the chances of getting those air bubbles that nobody wants, you really want to start from down in there and just push it, squeeze it out until the hot glue just kind of fills the space up. It'll fill the space up on its own and kind of, you know, decrease the chances you're going to get those funky bubbles that nobody wants in there. This particular mold, the Italian Villa Scrolls, it's a big one. It's pretty deep. It's one of the thicker molds that I've found. And so it takes a little bit longer to fill up. So by the time I get to the second scroll, I usually have to stop and take a break because I gotta let my glue heat back up and give my arm a rest because I'm pretty sure I'm getting carpal tunnel from making so many molds all the time. But hey, you know, it's worth it. But yeah, this one takes quite a bit to fill up. Quite a bit of effort to fill up, I should say. So just squeeze it on in there. Just squeeze from the bottom and let it just fill up with glue on its own. I think that's really the secret to getting the bubbles to not form. And it does take a little bit of practice. As easy as it kind of sounds, squirting some hot glue into a mold, you really kind of need to practice a bit. So don't wait until you're working on an important piece or a special piece. You want to practice beforehand on just making some that you know you don't really need for anything. In case you screw them up or you don't like how they turned out, just do some practice ones. Okay, my arm. Ooh, my arm's getting crazy. All right. All right, so we got our mold all filled up. Not too full, not underfilled, just full enough. Okay? And now I'm going to hop off here because I'm starting to lose my voice, which is kind of crazy. But I'm going to fill the other one up, let it set up, and then just attach it just like we did the other one. So I'm losing my voice, so I'm going to hop off here. But I hope that if you have any questions, you'll just throw them in the comments, and I'll go back through, and I will I'll answer them, any comments that I missed. So, yeah, it's not a super lengthy process, and it is a lot of fun customizing your pieces with hot glue molds or any other kind of molds. But this in specific was how to use hot glue molds. So I hope you all have a great day, and thanks for watching. Bye.